I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to call it rental tester and put in my main method. And now with the test where we want to start, the first thing my notes say is to create a house. So let's create a house. Let's call it 1, 2, 3. Well, it's not good practice to start your objects with a number, so we'll say main 1, 2, 3 with new house. So I can now use any of my getters and setters, my subclass or my superclass to set those values. So I could say, this is also not good practice. This should be lowercase. There we go. Let's say main 1, 2, 3 dot set. You can see as I typed in my set, here are my ones from the superclass. See how it says rental out here next to the side that tells me what method the class is from? Or I can use the one from the subclass itself of house to set the Boolean value for has yard. So we'll just do that one. We'll say has yard true. And I can go through here and use the setters from the superclass. We'll put the address in as 123 Main Street. Obviously, I could put in more detail if I needed to. Let's set the number of bedrooms to be 3 and the number of baths to be 1. And then we will do a toString so you can see the values, excuse me, the values inside of that. There we go. So we can see it is a house. It is set to true to have a yard, and then it calls the toString for the superclass. Oh, I almost had a rent amount, an address, bedrooms, all this. These other components are set to the default value, except for the ones that I've changed. Let's create another house. This time, let's use that non-default constructor. Let's call this Elm 222. Now, I can use Eclipse to autofill in my constructors. So if I hit Control Space, you may have to hit it a couple times to get to it, but you can see all of my different constructors. So here is my default no-art constructor. I can mouse down or arrow down and select the non-default constructor, and it gives me a little hint for what goes inside at that for that parameter. So we'll say the rent amount, it was a double, we'll say it's 1200. This is 222 Elm Street. This one has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It is not ADA accessible, and it does have a yard. Now, don't forget that if you do use those auto-completes for sticking in the constructors, that you still have to add the semicolon at the end. Now we'll list out the values inside of Elm 222 so you can see that all the values are set. Yeah. By using the constructor this time, it passes it through and it sets them for us automatically. Let's create an apartment. Let's call it Maple 345C. Again, I can use the default no-art constructor, and I can use the setters, or let's use the one that lets us set all the values at the same time just to save time. Let's say that the $900, this is 345, oops, this is a string, so I can tell it's a string. You see how it's trying to help me out right up here by telling me what component I'm on, so I can tell it's a string. I needed my double quotes there. Number, Maple Street, apartment C, bedrooms. So whenever I pop on the bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. We could have some kind of check inside of our bedroom, excuse me, on our bathrooms to say that if it's less than 1, maybe it's an issue. Let's say that this one is 88. Oh, come here, you. So it is 88. Oh, a unit number. So we can say, actually, we could put apartment C. That's a string. I keep forgetting. Put apartment C in this component, and then just leave the street address alone. Parking spaces, it comes with 1 parking spot. Oh, but look, we need a building to associate it with. Well, we don't have a building yet. So let's create a building. Let's create a building and let's call it Maple Court. All right, so you can see Eclipse is like, you don't have anything called Maple Court. So let's create a local variable called Maple Court. Now, it's smart enough to know that this is supposed to be a building. And before I use this building, I need to declare and initialize this variable for the building. So I stuck it right in my apartment. Now I could create a new building called Maple Court. I can use the default no-art constructor. We'll call it Maple Court. And we'll say that it does have a, oh, there we go. So before I can use this instance variable, I have to make sure that I create an instance of my apartment ahead of time. So now let's test out the Maple 345C toString. Let's see what that looks like. So we definitely have a lot more stuff going on here. Let me do a quick word wrap. There we go. So our I'm on the Mac. Gotta remember my keyboard shortcuts. So I want to show you, this is what's interesting. This is our type of apartment. We've got our apartment details in here. But check out building. Building is calling the toString for the building object. And then it's calling the toString for the rental for the rest of the information. So very cool that you can find out all the information all inside of one toString. All right, let's look. Okay, we've got a house done. Actually, we have 2 houses, an apartment. We created a building. We assigned the apartment to a building by simply doing this. Remember that I could also use my set building. I have another one. Set, oops, there we go, set building. And I could create a new building if I wanted to create it after the fact or change it to a different building after the fact. Let's create 2 renters quickly. Should be easy enough. I'll make me a renter. I did not make any other constructors for renters, so that's what I was looking for. I wanted to set all my values at the same time. You know what? Let's just fix that. Then I'll have to write them all out. So let's pop over to renter. Oh yes, well, this renter class is definitely set apart. I forgot some very important pieces inside of it. I generated these already. Generate our getters and setters. Default no-arg constructor, which, as you saw, even though I did not have it generated, it still worked because it was there by default. And let's do a special constructor that lets us put all the values in at the same time. There we go, which is what I tried to use. And then, of course, the toString. There we go. Now, go back over here to renter tester. There. Oh, okay. Since I saved my renter class, now I can use my new constructor. I just wish if Eclipse would realize that, yeah, this is a string. Just go ahead and put in the double quotes for our users. That would be super helpful. So there's one renter. I'm just going to use the same renter for each one. It won't matter. But in your implementation, you're going to create 2 renters. We're going to create 2 leases. So our lease, lease 1, we're going to use our objects. So check this out. Here are our constructors. Can I get this to out? There we go. Here's our default no-arg constructor, our non-default constructor. This one you can see is from a different class, a java.rmi class. I'm not even quite sure what that class is or what that class does. So we're going to use this one here. This allows us to use any kind of rental that we've created. So our rentals can be on our Maple 345C, we've got Elm, and we've got Main 123. So we can pick any of those to use as our rental that we pass in. So we use Maple 345C, and then we need our lease start. So this is where using our local date time actually let's use now. There we go. That'll set the date and time that the lease begins to now. I can also put in specific dates and times. So we'll say it begins now, but we'll say that it ends. So let's see. Here's a constructor that takes the year, month, day, for today, and this is in 24-hour time. So let's say that it ends at 5 p.m., which would be 1700 hours. And then I need my renter, which would be Kelly. So let's toString this lease 1 so you can see all the details that are set inside of it. So I'm right down here for readability. Okay, so here are all my lease information. I have a lease. It is a rental of an apartment. Here's all the details for that apartment, including the building and the information on the rental object itself. The lease start. So here's the time. Here is the end, here's the time, and here's the renter object itself. Very cool. You can also create objects and use them in constructors at the same time. So I'll show you that really quick, and then we'll wrap this up if there aren't any questions. So this time, rental we'll just do the Elm 222. We'll start, well, we're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to do the load date time now, but we're also going to make the end date now just to save time. Not that that makes a lot of sense. Now, what I can do is create a new renter at the same time. So let's make our new renter Joe Michaels, and his phone number is 999. So this is a way that you can create that object. There we go. Oh, I didn't print it out. I was going to show it to you, and then I realized that I haven't printed it out yet. So ToString. Now you can see here it is all the way down here at the bottom. Here's our house with all the details. You can see down here at the bottom here, our new renter called Joe. His last name is Michael. His phone number is this. Now the downside to doing it like this is that if I wanted to assign Joe to another lease, I wouldn't be able to reference him again. He would only be available for use inside of this constructor. So if it's something that you might need to change or update later, then we definitely don't want to create a new one as we're going. So, all right, I'm trying to think if there are any kind of weird situations that you may run into. Most of the time it's trying to use an object before you created it. Oh, I did think of one other thing I wanted to show you. If you needed to add another instance variable on down the road, so let's say that maybe we needed to keep track of social security numbers. I can always add in SSN, short for social security numbers. I can always add in more instance variables. And if I do that, I still need to generate my getters and setters for that new instance variable. That's not what I wanted. I'm going to put it at the end so that they go in the right order. I can add any other constructors that I need with that new instance variable in there. So we'll put one in there with all 4 of them. But with the ToString, I can only have one ToString per class. And most of the time, well, just about all the time, it is quicker to delete your ToString and to regenerate it than for you to go in there and try to modify that ToString to add in your new instance variables. So just because you create a ToString once does not mean that you have to keep it forever. If you've made changes to your class and you need to adjust your ToString, just delete it out there and recreate it again. Same with your constructors. If I no longer needed this, I could delete it and maybe just default to this one. But in this case, it doesn't hurt anything to leave both of those constructors there. So a quick way to show you how to recreate that ToString in the event that you've had to make some changes to your class. Now the last thing I need to show you is how to create an array list of leases and print them out using an enhanced for loop. So remember that our array list contains a type, so we would put inside of those brackets what value or what types that we are collecting inside of that array list. So we'll say new array list new with leases in it. And whenever I create an array list, I have to import those. Now to add those lease 1 and lease 2, I give it the name of the array list, dot, and Eclipse will help me out. It says this is the method that you need to use. We can add lease 1, semicolon. I should have called this all leases instead of all lease, but I just now realized it. Lease 2, there we go. Now I've got all my leases added to my array list. Let's make an enhanced for loop to print them all out. So for the name of my list, all lease, we're going to call each, hold on, I wrote that wrong. For all of our lease objects, we're going to refer to them as, let's do current item so that you can see it. And which list do I want to iterate through? My all lease list. And now for that, I just want to print out, let's do the current item dot, we'll just do the ToString so you can see it. And in between each one, we'll put a dash so that you can see it. So here is my all leases in system. All right, so down here at the bottom, here is my note, all leases in the system. Here is lease 1, ToString. There's my line break. my lease to that toString. So if I had a third lease, I would create my third lease, and then I would add it to my list, and then that for loop is going to automatically print that lease out once I add it to the array list. Just creating the lease itself, a lease 2, excuse me, a lease 3, lease 4, lease 5, that does not add it to my array list. In order to add it to my array list, I have to use the word add to specifically add that lease to your array list. All right, we have done a lot. We've covered a lot. Your task now is to recreate this on your own. You can call it rental project. You're going to create all of these classes that are outlined inside of the class structure. The rental house apartment to make sure that things inherit correctly. We have a lease class, a renter class, and a building class. And then you're inside of your rental tester class that has your main method, you are going to create a house, apartment, a building, assign the apartment to the building, 2 renters, 2 leases, assign houses and renters to leases, assign an apartment and a renter to a lease, and then finally create an array list of leases and print them out using an enhanced for loop, which is what I just demonstrated. So this recording will be available to you so that you can go back and reference it if you have any questions about data types or how to create and use different constructors. All this is here for you. Once you get it done, you're going to zip it up, and in Blackboard, inside of the in-class activities folder, there is an in-class activity assignment called rental, and you'll just upload that by Tuesday evening. It is my hope that by doing this multiple times, you get more comfortable using Eclipse and inheriting and figuring out the different relationships between the classes so that you don't just automatically put implements whenever something really should not implement or inherit from something. So that's what we've got going on this week. Next week, the demo will involve a interface. The Java interface is not a GUI interface, but rather using interfaces and talking about those. And I'm blanking on what else the discussion is on next week. So I guess you'll have to work ahead and figure that out, or stay tuned for next week.